everyone, and welcome to Listen, Love, Connect. Today we will be talking about my therapy journey, and I'll be honest with you, there was a lot of flow versus resistance. Let me invite Somi on so we can get started.
Hey, Savannah, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I am. How am I? You gotta give me a moment. I'll come back to me on that one.
All right.
No, I'm not bad or anything, but I'm just trying to make sure that I am using the appropriate word because the topic today or our discussion today is very timely
Yes.
and very intentional. So, how am I? I think I am, I'm just settled. I think that's the best word to describe how I am. I'm like settled. It's like there's a calm, but it's no but. It's just a calm. But
That's
I
nice.
don't know if the calm, like I could say I'm calm. I
Yeah.
guess.
I wish that was my dog right now.
You said what?
I said I wish my dog was like that right now.
Oh, Shelby?
Kaya, she
Oh.
is learning how to be calm.
Oh, she's learning how to be calm?
Yes, she's very high energy.
Or you may have to play the coherent breathing sounds, the one that exceptional heroes created.
Yes.
How amazing is that?
That would be great. I should try that on her.
Yeah, no, seriously. So the question is, how's your heart? How are you?
I was only frazzled for a second because I forgot mascara today. But that's like hindsight, not a big deal. But given that I like makeup and I like a full look, kind of got me off guard, but it's all good.
Right. Well, you look absolutely beautiful. You look great. So I mascara or no mascara, you still look great.
Thank you. But other than that, pretty good. Exceptional Heroes is going on the right path, so happy about that. And yeah, excited for this topic today.
Yes, so let's get into it. I'm super excited because I think it's so timely, given the post yesterday about, when someone comes to you and tells you, listen, I'm going to therapy. Mm-hmm. So we thought that it would be a great opportunity to kind of take the audience through your therapy journey. And we appropriately called it flow versus resistances because it's exactly, and I know a lot of people can relate to this. There are going to be times where, and for some people, therapy just flows, and for some people, you're like the kid that the parent is dragging into the.
That was me.
No, stop! Let go of me. And
that was me.
People looking from the outside and looking at it like, oh my gosh, this kid is going crazy. Is having a tantrum, and is so resistant to whatever this thing is, not knowing that there are other things underneath that. So if we could start first, one of the things that I found out recently about you when you were here in New York and we got to meet and break bread and hang out with the fam, which was just, that was just so glorious. Exceptional Heroes is here, which is a family-owned business and just extraordinary. And before we get off, I want you to tell the audience what happened yesterday.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, I think the audience needs to know. So for those of you watching, you gotta stay tuned because Exceptional Heroes is like they're becoming too big for me.
Girl, you were on 60 Minutes.
Who are you talking about? I don't know. Anyhow, I want you to go back, and let people know. So your therapeutic journey did not start with me.
No, it didn't.
So catch people up to that.
So my first introduction to therapy was when I was younger in elementary school. There were just things going on that I don't want to share, but there's just things going on. And so my mom put my sister and I in therapy. And this one was, just to give you guys an idea, this was a religious therapist for Christians and stuff like that. Just to give you an idea of the type of therapists I have seen. And I didn't like going there. I mean, there's a lot of stereotypes to therapy, which were known at that time. And I feel like it's getting better nowadays, but this was back in like 2013 and stuff. So yes, I might seem young, but a lot has changed since then. And so going there, it was a struggle to get me there. I dreaded Wednesdays because that's the days we would go. And it was just, she tried to make it fun, that's for sure, the therapist. But it just didn't fit with me. I personally do not like talking like at all. I'm a very quiet person. So talking about my feelings and like how my week's going and stuff it's not me. So that was difficult. Of course, again, therapists try to make it fun, but it just wasn't me. And also that was the time when I was told that, like, I knew that I had auditory processing disorder. It's just no one ever said you had a learning disability. And back then, having a learning disability had a negative, I guess, connotation is the right word towards it. And so, having someone straight up tell me you have a learning disability didn't angered me. So, yeah, that was that. I quickly, as soon as my parents said I don't have to go to therapy anymore, I was like, all right, I'm opting out. And then I never went back to therapy. It was just not me. I didn't like therapy. And funny enough, I was going to school to be a child therapist, even though I hated therapy. But I feel like sometimes when people don't like something and they go in that field, they just want to try to make it better. I feel like that's why I was going in there, because as a kid going to therapy, it was very much you're sitting in a chair. We played a few games, but again, you're sitting in a chair talking to someone in an office. And in my head, I was like, this doesn't work out for kids. It's not fun in any way. And as a kid, sometimes you don't know how to express your feelings because you're still learning. And so I think that's the reason why I wanted to go to therapy or become a child psychologist. But during my time in Colorado, after my attack, I tried going to therapy. And I liked the woman. And this was provided by the school because at Colorado State University, you were allowed to have, I think, 5 free therapy sessions. Okay. And so I was going to take that opportunity to help myself. And it did help. But again, I wasn't open very much with her. So I just stopped going completely. Okay. And then when I came out with my story, my mom was trying to find a therapist here in Arizona for me because we felt like I knew I didn't want to go to a group. At the time, I felt like you had to compare people's stories, and now you don't. But at the time, that's how I felt, and that's why I didn't want a group therapy. I wanted a one-on-one. I knew that for sure. And so trying to find a psychologist here in Arizona is very difficult, especially one for trauma and for sexual assault. And so when we did find one and we did go in for one, she called my situation a hiccup. And she also was very, because what the certain things I did in Colorado after my attack, she was concerned for her daughter that was in college at the time. And as Somi has taught me, it's never about the therapist and their life. It is about the client. Not that the therapist's feelings don't matter. It's just I was there for me and to get help with me. And she didn't like that my mom wanted to come in with me. At this time, I was, I think, 20, but I still needed my mom with me. And then we found Somi through a mutual friend. And Somi was very willing for my mom to be there in sections, to speak for me when I didn't want to. Or, I mean, there were cases where I had PTSD episodes and I didn't remember anything. So, of course, my mom would have to speak and tell her the situation. So that is kind of where I met Somi. Somi and I've had trouble with Somi because I just didn't like therapy. And I think the reason why, and I've told Somi this, the reason why I didn't like therapy was because I felt like every time I went to therapy, there was something wrong in my life. And that's the case for most people. And so, of course, today I still don't like therapy, but I know I need it. And so Somi has changed her therapy strategy to come to me when I need her. And just recently, I haven't talked to Somi in a therapy standpoint for a while, but just recently we scheduled one because I needed her. Do you want to add anything, Somi?
Yeah, well, you said a lot. And I think, first, you know this, and I don't. It's very important to me that you are validated in all the different the journey, your therapeutic journey, and the bumps on the journey, the things that have actually triggered you, the things that have hurt you, the things that have gone well, all of it. And so one of the reasons why I thought it was very appropriate to, speak to your audience about your therapeutic journey is that a lot of people have had similar experiences as you had. And of a lot of people, the therapy journey is never easy. And so, hence the reason that we called it, flow versus resistance. But if I could piggyback real quick on a couple of the things that you mentioned or you said, so your first experience with therapy was from a religious standpoint. So it's probably pastoral, more of like spiritual counseling, pastoral counseling, that kind of element. So, and that's where you were at that time. And that's one of the things that I think is very important for people that are seeking therapy. Who you are is going to change. You are going to evolve as a person, whether with the support and help of your therapist or just in who you are. An individual that is not evolving is almost always dying in a certain way. So there's an evolution to all of us. And when you evolve, things may change. And so knowing the individual that I know now, a religious therapist would not work for you in this stage of your life.
No.
Because
that's probably trigger me and set me back.
Right. It would be a huge trigger. So when we say this to people, it's like, as a parent, as a caregiver, as an individual, it's very important to be in touch with where you are in the present moment. Who are you now? So, especially for parents, because your mother was so, involved, and rightly so, and was welcomed by me in your healing journey, because one of the things that we talked about is your attack didn't happen to you, but it destabilized the whole family system.
Right, yes.
So a lot of times when I hear, especially with young children, where children are being provided counseling in isolation outside of the family, it makes no sense to me.
Right.
And I'm like, as you and I, when we first started, we were seeing each other maybe twice a week for an hour and a half, somewhere about that. But the rest of the time, your mom, your sister, your dad, your grandpa, your grandma, were the ones with you. So it made absolutely no sense that they weren't included in the process.
Right.
And it made absolutely no sense that I would be resistant or kind of push back at the involvement of the family. I welcomed it because I was like, they're going to be her safety net as well.
Yes.
So when I think about when people want to go into therapy, and especially I think about this especially for younger people and parents are making this decision, it has to be a collaborative decision, and you have to be connected with your child, and you have to be in tune with who that individual is at that time. So putting your child with a therapist that doesn't fit who they are could trigger them, could cause resistance. So I don't know, gosh, for 3 years, I worked with children and adolescents specifically, actually a little 4 years straight. And I've never met a child or an adolescent that came to me that was like, I don't like therapy. Get me out of here. My mom is making me, or my dad is making me, or my grandma. Oh my gosh, they were kicking and screaming. The resistance was astronomical. And I would sit there, and then they would look at me like, why isn't this woman reacting? Like, why isn't she like, okay, they've given me, you know, I had a kid like literally lose it in a therapy session because he was just so angry that he had to be there. And through the whole process, I sat there and I just kept, I said, I understand. I understand. Everything he said, everything he did, I said, I understand. The next day, this was in a psychiatric adolescent facility. So he lived in the facility. The next morning when I came in, he was at my door. I didn't have a session scheduled for him that day. And he's like, Ms. Mubarak, I need to talk to you. And I said, okay. And he came in, he's like, why didn't you react? And it caught me off guard. So I laughed and he's like, I said, were you expecting me to? He's like, yes, that's what you guys do. When we lose it and when we don't want to be here, you guys then say, okay, you don't have to be here, go away, and then it's done. And I'm like, no, I'm different. And
that so you are.
The reality became that, you know, that kid became like my my shadow in a lot of ways, because a part of this therapeutic journey is also about the attachment that people develop. And we had talked before about these dual relationships, but it also, even if there are no dual relationships, there are attachments formed. And so for a lot of people, therapists are so disconnected from their clients that it kind of becomes an extension of what they've gotten all their life. Yeah. Like, okay, here's another therapist. It's going to tell me the same things. It's going to tell me all these different things. And, you know, and then for someone like you that is not big about talking, and the attachment that you have to, oh, if I'm going to therapy, something is wrong with me. Yeah. Do you remember what I used to tell you, or I often tell you regarding that statement?
You still tell me it, but you tell me that even if something bad didn't happen, that these tools still would have helped, even if nothing bad happened.
And that's where I feel that people need to shift from mental health, mental illness to mental wellness. Mm-hmm. The things that I introduce in therapeutic settings, I use them. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? I use them. I've used them with my son since he was like literally a day old. I tell people, if you're going in a good therapeutic environment, it's not a thing of like something is wrong with you. Right. I'm looking at like, what are all the great things about you? What are all the things that are right about you? And how do we ensure that you have these lifelong tools that you can implement in your life, not just for you, for anybody else you meet. So it's not short-sighted vision. It's quite long in the essence of, okay, what are some of the things every day that Savannah can implement, not just because she is a survivor of sexual assault, but even if she wasn't a survivor, like, because prior to you being sexually assaulted, there were all things going on. You still had to navigate this concept of your mind worked differently than other people. That's my way, you know, where people say you have a learning disability, I just say your mind works differently. So I'm very, very intentional about these labels we put on people and that people adopt, and then we think something is wrong with us.
Right, yes.
And
I don't think that way anymore, but yeah.
Yeah, but I've always told you, like, nothing is wrong with you.
Yeah.
Like, none of my clients, nobody I ever work with is ever broken to me. They're not coming to me because, oh my goodness, they're this broken thing and I'm here to fix them. What I look at is like, okay, just like if something was going on with me and I needed support, that's what it is. They're coming to me because they feel safe, they trust me, and they're like, okay, I need a sounding board. I need somebody to help me navigate this particular chapter in my life so that the next chapters are not so, you know, confusing or dysfunctional or whatever the case may be. But more importantly is to even help people get a better understanding of how the brain works. You and I did a lot of that, and how dysregulation and our conditioned dysregulation contributes to a lot of our mental health issues. So when you, given your story and how you still don't like therapy.
No.
So,
but I know I need it.
Yeah, so that, you know, and you saying that, Savannah doesn't like therapy. And I'm saying that for anybody that can hear this, whether it's child, yourself, you know, somebody that is telling you, I don't like therapy. There's a difference between I don't like therapy, I don't like my therapist. They're two different things. So there are a lot of people that do not like therapy, but they know that they need it. And they're getting the benefit out of it. It's just that it's a struggle sometimes.
Yes, it is. And depending on background, culture, just different things take a part in that. And I think that's why finding the right therapist for you is so important.
Absolutely. So do you want to mention the woman that told you, because I think this is important, because as women of color, there's a tendency, and just people of color, period, there's a stigma. And it's not just here in the United States, it's across the board. I've worked in Nigeria, I've worked with Rohingya refugees. It's across, like, people of color, particularly, there's this element of therapy, we're good. I don't want anything to do with it. So the woman that told you that your sexual assault was a hiccup, I want you to talk about her background.
So she was a psychotherapist. She was Black, African American, I don't know what she wants to be called, but she was of someone of color, and so her bio, her whole title was very impressive, which is why we thought to go to her. But she was very cold, first off, made me tell the story right away. I had my mom, but she didn't like that. And I only went to her once because I stayed through the whole session because I wanted to make sure that, like, maybe that's not really her. I feel like she was very textbook. And so I did stay through the whole session. I know my mom has mentioned to you that she was about to walk out of the door. But I gave her a chance, but as soon as we walked out, she was like, go in line to make your next appointment. And we went in line, and I was like, nope. And I dragged my mom's dog out the door, and there we went. But I don't know too much of her background other than she was very titled, and yeah. But
so some of the, you just mentioned, one of the reasons why I wanted you to bring that up is because I feel like many people make these consistent mistakes. We do the research, we get caught up in the titles. Oh my gosh, you know, and we get caught up in the amount of years people have been in there, you know, therapists. We then also get caught up, especially from a non-white perspective. Now people are like, you know, you need to pick somebody that is, you know, we pick based on race or ethnicity or this, you know, those kind of dynamics. And then there's this element of, you know, I go, lack of a better term, that we're looking for the one that everybody is kind of supporting, or the one that everybody's kind of, you know, is the most popular, if you will. And one of the things that I caution people is, first of all, when you're dealing with trauma, there's a difference, and we've talked about this, there's a difference between being trauma aware and trauma informed.
Yes.
If you have dealt with any form of trauma, you should not be going to anybody that is just trauma aware. You need a trauma informed therapist. That's important. Yes. I don't care if they've been in therapy for a year, 6 months, 20 years. If they're not trauma informed, it's going to be problematic for you. It's going to be really problematic for you, because they will not be able to navigate your traumatic experiences in an appropriate way, and they will, whether intentionally or intentionally, trigger you. Yes. Because they are not informed. The other thing is being culturally competent. One of the biggest mistakes we make as a Nigerian woman, if I were to go into therapy right now, I wouldn't necessarily be looking for another Nigerian therapist. That does not equate that this person can understand me.
Right.
For example, when I working with the Chibok women, everybody assumed she's Nigerian, so piece of cake. And I was just like, no, I had to learn their culture. It just happened that I got 3 years prior to having to go back to Nigeria to work with them to really learn their culture. I wasn't culturally competent in their culture prior to that. Just because I was a Nigerian woman doesn't mean anything. Now, were there things that were similar? Absolutely. But at the crux of really getting to who they were, respecting them, understanding them, I wasn't really culturally competent until I really devoted myself to getting to know them. So having a culturally competent therapist, making sure that they're trauma informed. I can't stress that enough. And then, how comfortable are you with them? Male, gender-wise. You know, now that we're dealing with a lot of different things, your comfort level, you know, and when you go into an environment, like your first time meeting your therapist, you should be interviewing that individual.
Yeah.
It's not you, they choose you, you choose them. And if at any point you have red flags, you don't feel comfortable, they're saying things that are just like, trust those instincts.
Yes.
You gotta trust those instincts, because if not, your therapeutic journey is going to be tainted. And just like you're gonna be out the door.
Yeah. And I think that's why, so going a little bit back to when I tried to go therapy in Colorado, I didn't really know any of the therapists that were there, so it was just randomly selected and who I could get in first. But I liked the lady. It's just I wasn't ready to tell my story. But the reason why I liked her was because she sat there and listened. She didn't interrupt me, anything like that. She made the room very comfortable for me. She let me bring in Monroe, my emotional support rabbit. She's like, you can bring him, you can have him on your lap, whatever. And she was Asian, so she had a very strong accent. And she goes, if the accent is too strong, let me know and I can repeat myself. Or if this is not going to work out because of my accent, that is okay. Which I like because she was open about it. She was willing to repeat if she needed to. Or if it just didn't work out because of her accent, she was okay with that. Right. Which I like that because she was open.
Right. And that's important too. If you, as a therapist, if you're not in tune, you're not present, you're not open to your client, there's an energy transference. They'll sense it. Even if you're trying to kind of block it or compose yourself, they will sense it. And it, just hearing some of what you said about that particular therapist is so important. Most of my sessions now are done virtually. And people are like, well, how do you do that when you're not in the same room with them? How do you feel? And I'm like, I don't think I've ever had an issue with, even before COVID, we were virtual because you were in Arizona and at the time I was in Maine. When I was in Nigeria, I still had clients. I was in Nigeria and had clients in Texas and, Illinois. And the energy was always, there's a transference. It doesn't matter. It comes through no matter where you are. And that openness, people can tell when you're open, when you're non-judgmental, when you're empathetically listening and really paying attention to what they're saying, when you're validating them. And that's huge from a therapeutic standpoint because the rest of the world, there's a lot of criticism. People are really getting hit in so many different ways and having to unpack a lot of different things all at once. So that therapeutic space has to be safe. You and I talked about this on IG, the emotional safety versus the physical safety and how emotional safety is often neglected, but it's really, really important. Even if you're not a sexual assault survivor, for any therapeutic environment, that's how rapport is built, is that person shows up and they're like, I can show up as myself, flaws and all, baggage, the whole nine. I can, with you, I don't know how many times I had to tell you, you never have to apologize for being you. Whatever those emotions are, whatever you're feeling, they're all valid. And I'm here to hold all of that, to virtually hold you and hold space for you. Same thing I said to your mom so many times. I'm like, I'm here. You guys don't need to apologize for the messiness that can present itself in therapy, which it can be quite messy sometimes.
Yes, because as I said in one of my other videos, I did throw Sony the phone.
She did. It's interesting. Like our therapeutic journey, people would probably think like, oh my gosh, like was this? Were we fighting? Savannah's like yelling, like, no, man, I don't want to talk to you. And I'm like, I understand.
But now you can say you've flown virtually.
What'd you say?
I said now you can say you've flown virtually in my house.
Well, no, I energetically felt myself going through the room in Arizona because I was just, all I heard was, and then the mom gets on the phone. She's like, she just threw the phone. And I'm like, okay. And
then there's been times where she did something that I thought was therapeutic, but it was just to make me laugh, was giving me a high five through the screen. She's like, can you feel that? I'm like, no. She goes, good, because you're not supposed to.
Right. And so, I mean, it's again, you show up and you're given space to be and to show up.
Yeah.
And I show up with you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what it's the present of it all. It's like Savannah is in a really dark place today. I'm right there. And not being uncomfortable about it. Because a lot of people, therapists, are uncomfortable. We want you to feel better. We want you to shift out of this mood you're in. And I'm like, let's sit with it. And you're like, I don't want to sit with it. You're going to tell me. And I'm like, no, we're going to sit with it. Because that's where you are. And I want to be where you are. And when you shift, I want to be there as well. And we will continue. And then we will continue to implement the tools and the techniques that are helpful for you to move on. So having said all of that, you know, and to kind of just bring it to a bit of a close, the element of all of this is to kind of give people this idea that, you know, whether you are the parent, whether you're the therapist, whether you're the caregiver, whatever role you're playing in someone's therapeutic journey, it's important to understand that there is gonna be flow at times and there's gonna be resistance at times. And sometimes it could a lot of resistance and they could hardly ever be any flow but it's for you. You don't match their resistance with resistance. You match their resistance with flow. So essentially, you're getting to that element of flow, but it's up to you as a therapist to be there. You know, you are the regulated one in that situation, and your element of regulation and presence is what's going to shift your client. And even as a parent, I know your mom is on here. I don't know how many times your mom, I have to shout her out, was phenomenal in listening and being an extension of me with you in that moment. So I would tell her, she would be doing something and I'd be like, Georgie, don't do that. I need you to stop that right now. One of the first things is, like I told her, I said, when she's in a heightened state, stop talking. Just hold her, put on the bells, rub her, the essential oils, all of it. And she listened. And that was, I can't emphasize and applaud your mother on how that was so helpful for you. That whatever I was saying when you were in crisis, and I would tell her, do this, and she would immediately do it. She wouldn't question it. She wouldn't try to rationalize it. Sometimes she was like, Somi, I'm not sure if I'm doing this right. And I'm like, what you're doing is enough because you're present there. So having said all that, the therapeutic journey can be a beautiful mess. It will have its ups and downs. You may have people that just for a while, and you have to decipher, is it the therapist or it's just that person going through their mess? And that element of going through a mess could take a while. It could take a minute. It could take 2 years, you know, but with the right therapy and the right therapist, you will find the evolution of that individual. So, go ahead.
I was just going to say, from the person going to therapy, make sure you find the right therapist for you, and make sure that you are able to say you don't like therapy, but that you need it. It's okay to say you don't like therapy, but it is important to realize if you need it. Or that you need it.
And it's important for whoever's in our lives to support us in that, you know? If someone tells me, you tell me all the time, Somi, I don't like therapy, and I'm like, okay, I understand. And we explore it. And you say, I just don't like to talk. I don't, and I'm like, we sit there, and before you know it, we are having therapy.
Yes. It's very tricky that way.
Yeah, that was I said I was never gonna tell you that, but I'm like, one of these days I am going to let her know that so many times she's like, Selmy, I don't want to do therapy, I don't like therapy. And then an hour goes by and I'm like, hey Savannah, guess what? You just had a therapy session. I was like, Savannah, we don't have to call it therapy. You can call it whatever you want. If it's gonna make you kind of just your central nervous system calm down, whatever you need to call it. Just say you're calling me to talk, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, I was like, all that resistance, I'm just gonna meet with you like, oh, yes, you don't like therapy.
The flow.
We're gonna flow. So
Yeah.
Exceptional Heroes had something amazing happen yesterday that Savannah, I want you to, tell the audience before we kind of let everybody go. So what does Exceptional Heroes have to tell us?
So we were on the list. It is a ABC network here in Arizona. It's Channel 15. And we were #1 for therapeutic devices that are coming out. And so I am working really hard to try to find the segment to post it so all of you can see. But this went out not only in Arizona, but it went out from New York all the way to California. And we got a lot of feedback. People wanting Monroe, people wanting Shelby. They're like, how did you come up with this? And I'm like, therapy.
And that's honestly, I mean, part of your journey and what I find to be extraordinary, exceptional about you, Exceptional Heroes, is that Savannah came up with Exceptional Heroes in the midst of like the messiness of her healing journey. I mean, we started working up in June. By September, October, she had this idea. And I remember she told me, and I said, Savannah, this is it. This is gold. But what was so extraordinary and exceptional about it, it was that it was bad. We were in the midst of just really, really bad moments, episodes, several times a day. And in all of that, you were able to push beyond yourself to figure out, like, how could I help other people in their healing journey? So for those of you watching, I am biased. I'm going to put it out there. You don't have to guess. You don't have to worry about it. I'm really biased. But I'm also very genuine and very serious when I say this to you. The creation of Exceptional Heroes, there's Monroe, comes from the depth of pain of this young woman who refused for her attacker and her trauma to just disrupt who she is and who she's meant to be. And so when you look at this therapeutic device, and as it becomes more accessible to everybody, and just the level of excellence put into creating Exceptional Heroes, know that, and I say this because I was there. I'm not saying this because what I heard or somebody told me. The tears, the pain, the heartache, the joy, the laughter, all of it is in Exceptional Heroes. And Savannah, I know I've told you this many times, but I am going to say this publicly. You are an exceptional hero.
Thank you. I couldn't have done it without you, my mom, my grandma. There's a lot of people involved in making this come true.
Yep.
But before we sign off, I also want to do a little plug-in. If you go to exceptionalheroes.com, you can purchase some mental health t-shirts, and all proceeds go to helping exceptional heroes. Be public for all of you in 2020. So make sure you go to exceptionalheroes.com to go check out those t-shirts and support exceptional heroes so that you can get one of these therapeutic devices to help your mental health and your mental well-being.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Somi.
Thank you.
We'll see everyone next week. We will be talking about bullying versus the upstander.
Yep.
Correct?
Bully versus the upstander. Yep.
Yes. So thank you again, everyone. And always remember to listen, love, connect.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. All
Bye.
right. Bye.